Hello all, a warm welcome to today's webinar. So today's webinar session, we will be discussing about the business impact of improving VuClip security posture using our PallyCon's Multi-DRM. So today we will have the speakers of our webinar. So let me introduce myself. Harish Bhatt. I'm working as a product manager at PallyCon. And I have been working on the product related technologies, sales, and with the customers. So I have been working in the media and the broadcast industry for around 13 plus years and have worked with the ATV leader and a leading networking company. And I'm focused on building a robust content security products at Pelicon. So today's webinar session is, we have a key person, Mr. Praveen Singh, who was very instrumental in integrating our PallyCon products in VuClip, which helped them a lot. So I will let Mr. Praveen Singh introduce himself. Yeah, Mr. Praveen.
Hello. Hi, Harish. Very good morning to you as well. And thank you very much for inviting me today for this discussion. So guys, my name is Praveen Singh. I have been in the media and entertainment industry for over 17 plus years, most of which has been in the OTT or streaming first kind of work. I have worked with various type of organizations, some into software development for the OTT space, some into the content provider side of space in my entire career. So in my career, I have tried to focus into implementing or solutioning market differentiating kind of technologies so that end user get a better user experience, yet secure, but by lowest data consumption possible, so that the cost of consuming the service inherently gets reduced. So it is win-win for the service provider and the user both. So this kind of work I have been focusing on, and I'm thankful to this solutions provider like PallyCon and many others for that matter, who have helped us achieve this kind of objective. Thank you very much for inviting for today's discussion.
Thank you so much, Praveen. It's our privilege to have you today in this webinar. And we will have a lot of interesting discussions going forward. So let's quickly look at the agenda, what we have for today's webinar. So today's webinar, we will have a short introduction about our PallyCon and VuClip. And next we will touch upon what are the content security guidelines from the studios. And we will also briefly discuss upon why we need multi-DRM in the OTT space and other things. Also, we will understand from Mr. Praveen Singh about the impact of multi-DRM, its implementation, and how it helped you. And also, we will end this webinar with a note on what are the future trends of content and the app security. How are the things that are lined up in the future? Yeah, so let's have a start with the introduction of PallyCon and Vue. So PallyCon, what is PallyCon? PallyCon is a premium content service provider, which has different products, and it offers around a 360-degree cloud end-to-end security. So PallyCon has a state-of-art multi-DRM and forensic watermark, which are first cloud-based solutions to help customer quickly and easily apply the content security. Forensic watermarking, along with the anti-piracy solution that we have, is capable of disrupting the illegal streaming. So identifying the pirate sites and disrupting is, those solutions are available at the PallyCon. And apart from this, we have a AppSealing product, which is a very interesting one, which is like a cloud-based solution to protect the mobile apps with zero code and RASP security features. So I will let Mr. Praveen introduce about Vue. Mr. Praveen.
Hi, thank you.
Hi.
Thank you very much, Harish. So Vue is a very premium OTT service in Southeast Asia, Middle East, and South Africa regions. It has offerings in 16 different countries in multiple different languages. English, Korean, Pinoy are just to name a few. So we have regional content in every country where we operate, almost every country where we operate in. And we have 59, close to 59 million monthly active users reach with us. So it seems like we have a lot of responsibility to satisfy the entertainment needs of OTT customer. And we are thankful that customers have rewarded us with this much reach. Thank you.
Yeah, Praveen, nice to know that you are in 16 plus countries, and hope it's expanding more.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so let's go to the next part of our webinar. That is about the content security guidelines from the studio. So, Mr. Praveen, can you briefly provide some info on the guidelines with respect to content security, the implementation and requirements of content acquisition and licensing?
Sure. So just spare me few minutes about this, because this is not very straightforward, and one has to understand this subject very deeply to do the right kind of implementation. So usually just put ourselves into, if we put ourselves into shoes of the content providers. So the content, the premium content that they produce is their bread and butter, right? So what somebody would like to do with something which is so much necessary for their livelihood, so they would like to protect it by every effort that they can make, right? So the content providers broadly want to say that when they are licensing their content to other platform, the other platform should be technically capable to protect the content from the time it reaches to their premises. Then it from their servers, it goes to the clients or the users who are consuming it on their devices of various kinds. And once they are playing it, then also there has to be a content protection that it is not leaking while it is being played back, right? So this entire value chain has to be protected. So this is usually happen to be the objective of each single content provider across the globe. So if we maybe go one step deeper, right? So we touched upon three topics, right? So one topic is securing the content when it is in rest, securing the content when it is in transition, and then securing the content when it is being played. So these are the three key pillars. So if we touch upon every single thing, for example, securing the content when it is at rest means two things. So once content comes to the content provider, and before it gets encrypted and it is in process to getting delivered to the user, so what are the access control mechanisms that are implemented by the service provider so that no one else who doesn't have anything to do with the content can access the content and leak it from there itself? So then there is no number for any other solution like DRM or whatnot to come in picture, because if the content gets leaked even before it goes through the DRM and all, then all is lost. So that is one of the very important point. And in that point, there nowadays it is very popular to receive the content via secure means. There are various protocols. This Aspera, Signiant are just the name of few, right? So that is one. And then once content reaches there and then it is getting processed, then there has to be, I guess, still some need in various corners of the world to differentiate between the encryption and DRM. People, not everybody, yeah, but many people still think that if they encrypt the content, DRM also use the encryption. And so if we also encrypt the content, it is good enough. So no, it is not. DRM is not equal to encryption. DRM equal to encryption plus authentication and authorization plus enforcement of usage rules. So this equation has to be really engraved into everyone's mind who is responsible for this kind of implementations. So people have to understand that the product that they are buying in the name of DRM, or they are implementing or developing, whatever they're doing in the name of DRM, it has to have all these qualities that I just mentioned. And enforcement of usage rule is not only important for the security point of view, but from the license terms and condition point of view, because the content provider doesn't want your services to be consumed in uncontrolled manner that ultimately or indirectly going to harm them. For example, if you are not allowed to distribute a content into a particular territory, then your solution has to be able to stop the content from being distributed outside the territory where it is licensed actually.
So like the
Then
geo-fencing you're talking about?
Geo-fencing kind of thing. And then in DRM space, if content provider doesn't want you to keep the content for indefinite time, so the DRM has to be able to have that kind of mechanism where it really puts a lid on, okay, now this is the time for even the downloaded content to get deleted or rendered inaccessible, right? Or if they don't want you to consume more than n number of streams per subscription account, then whatever it may be, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if they, let's say, if they want to control that per user account shouldn't consume more than 5 streams, then the DRM should have this kind of control. So unless it has this kind of control, it's useless. And then of course, if we will say that people who think that the encryption and DRM are same, maybe they will be right if the DRM don't have these kind of controls. But fortunately, all the leading DRMs have this kind of controls. And it doesn't stop there. So ultimately, when we go even one step deeper, then there are two most important things to remember. One is all the major Hollywood content providers, they always want to ensure that you agree to a mutually agreeable list of devices, their operating systems, and even their version numbers of the operating system, where you can consume or you can distribute your content, right? So for example, people may agree to, let's say, Android version so and so, Android mobile devices version so and so, iOS or Apple mobile devices on version so and so, and then limited browsers with the version and the operating system, like if it is Microsoft Edge version Windows 10 plus only, and Safari on Mac on this version, then only they will approve the HD resolution distribution. So there are limitations to, even if you have a DRM solution, and if it is not a hardware level DRM solution, you will not be allowed to distribute the HD content there. You will be, of course, allowed to distribute the SD content. So these kind of restrictions are generally that content provider poses. So I'll stop there and maybe let's move to the next point, because it seems to be a never-ending topic.
Yeah, and thanks, Praveen, for clearly differentiating the encryption versus the multi-DRM and what are the qualities that the multi-DRM should be possessing. So yeah, let's move on to the next topic of the need of multi-DRM.
Yeah, so as I was explaining in the last topic that, okay, if you have, so I used or touched upon two words. One is the hardware level DRM and the software level DRM. So usually what happens is now we are in the space where the world is dominated. So let's talk about the mobile space first. So in the mobile space, world is dominated by the two major players. One is Android and one is iOS. And they want to control, I would say, at least it has been my observation, I might be wrong, but my observation has been, it makes sense for the business and the owners of Android and iOS and all to control the entire ecosystem. In that entire ecosystem, they would like to say that if in my ecosystem, you are consuming a content in an Android ecosystem, which is owned by Google, then you must have a DRM, which is also controlled and owned by Google. It's not only because of business, because they would trust their own system to exchange the very basic keys which are required to deliver or to make sure that the content is rightly protected to distribute the HD content. So there are cases if you are on Android and iOS mobile devices. So if you have any other kind of DRM other than, let's say, Widevine from Google and Fairplay from iOS, then or Apple, then you may not be able to get the basic cryptographic keys with help of any third-party DRM. So while it is allowed to use the third-party DRM, but there will be a limitation from various, not everybody, but yes, many content provider will limit your content resolution to SD. So that is why it is needed to implement multiple DRMs on multiple devices, because their ecosystem is different. So the DRMs should be native to the ecosystem. For example, I'll need Widevine for Android. That is one. I'll need Fairplay for Apple devices. And then I'll need PlayReady for variety of other devices, maybe some on TV, while nowadays Widevine is also being increasingly popular on TV as well. So now I need these 2 to 3 DRMs at least to be able to distribute the HD quality content on all the devices spectrum that I want to serve to my users on. Right. So one DRM is not a solution.
Yeah.
There has to be these DRMs if I want to distribute an SD content to the end users. So that is why multi-DRM is needed.
Yes, yeah, Praveen, you rightly said that each content, each device has their own ecosystem, and they do trust their own all the environment and the encryption and decryption methods. Yeah. So we had one question about and there are so many multi-DRM vendors. What made you choose to go with PallyCon and your experience about PallyCon?
Yeah, so rightly pointed. So as I mentioned, we needed to implement at least three DRM for our services, because our services are offered on every, I would say almost every imaginable device type, on the computer browsers, on Android and iOS mobile devices, LG TV, Samsung TV, and various other Android TVs, and many more, right? So what we needed was to sorry. So what we needed was to implement all these three things, right? So to have such kind of implementation, what you will need people who are expertise in those kind of implementation, right? So we had a choice: either we hire people who have expertise on those three things, and we maintain three different kind of integrations for the DRM, and it doesn't commercially makes much sense to me. At least at that point in time, it didn't make commercially much sense to me. If we can get a service which is reasonably priced and easy to implement. So when I say easy to implement, is not just a phrase. So usually when people give a DRM service, they'll share the standards. Okay, now you go ahead and implement. But people forget to share the code snippets for every single device type and every single ecosystem type. So in our evaluations, we found out that compared to various other providers, not everybody, I don't know everybody, but yeah, the various providers who have came for the bidding, so they don't have the code snippet for every single device type, where VuClip was offered the code snippets from PallyCon for every single device. So my player team has a different code snippet for implementation for Android, iOS, and other ecosystems as well. So it was very easy to implement. People who have basic understanding of these things, and they're already into coding for the backend and the player processes. So they were very happy to pick this up and implement so quickly. So we have been able to turn around very quickly, and this was one of the main pointers to go ahead with the PallyCon DRM. So point to note is easy to implement with the available code snippets, and the reasonable price also was one of the pointers, I would say. And Another point is if the services are implemented on a scalable infrastructure. So if you have event-based programming for your service, so maybe let's say some big football event, cricketing event, or any other kind of event, if we want to plan all of a sudden, if some deal comes on our way, so then we don't need to go out to search another security partner who can scale for that much anticipated volume. So this all was there in one bucket, and we were happy to choose that. So at that point in time, it made sense. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Praveen, for highlighting the PallyCon's, the way ease of integration and the easy scalability and the price, which made you to go with PallyCon as a DRM partner. So really glad to know about it. So we would like to know, going forward, like what was the impact of the multi-DRM on the when you're using it in your VuClip's business, the entire media value chain? How did it improve, or what was the indirect impacts?
Sure. So while it is difficult to determine the impact in terms of numbers directly, but I would say that maybe if you see a larger scheme of things playing out currently versus few years back when we have done the few months back when we have done the implementation, so then you realize, okay, it has some indirect contribution for sure. For example, we have increase in our subscription revenue, let's say 37%. So as per Yahoo Finance, our subscription revenues is up by 37% year on year compared to last year. So I would say that this is because we have been able to offer the good quality content to our user. And many of that good quality content can be from these content providers who might have asked for the DRM. So I can't differentiate, okay, this much out of this 37% increase, this much is for the DRM aided content, this much is for the non-DRM type of content or whatever. But yeah, we can see that there is some indirect relationship with that. And second is, it is also, you can say, associated with how your brand is perceived, right? So, and that is much more important, because if your brand is perceived that, okay, it can be, I mean, anyone can very easily consume its services, even the premium content, even without buying it, then all is lost. So then there is the point where this made most of the difference, because when we say that so when we want to tie up the content delivery with the subscription, then the DRM's impact becomes much larger. So while there is a configurability that whether or not we tie it with that, but because our service is free service also, premium service also, combination of both. So what type of differentiation we want to make at the time of tying the subscription enabled user at the time when we want to give it to him the DRM enabled content. So the impact is really good because of that, and people, at least I can say, the content we want to control, we control, and it has helped to improve the brand value. And that is also seen indirectly in the number of monthly active users we have, the number of the increased subscription revenue that we have today. So that is really good. Thanks. Thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Praveen, for elaborating how did it impact or increase the revenue plus even the users. So yeah, the main content providers are actually, they has to be sure that their content is very well protected and delivered. And as you rightly mentioned, that it has to be controlled properly so that only legitimate users can use it, not the get it for the free, then the value decreases. Yeah. Good to know about it. So next we'll have, what are the future trends for the content and app security? So where do you see the industry is turning into after adopting the multi-DRM?
So I see there are 2-3 pointers we should figure out, and it's not only related to PallyCon, but it is the entire industry has to find some solution to it, and it is not yet found. For example, when we talk about delivering the DRM enabled DRM protected content over the browsers. So on browsers, you know, Chrome is Google aided browser, Google provided browser, Widevine is a Google provided DRM. But even if you have Google Widevine on Google Chrome, you can't distribute HD, right? So there are might be multiple reasons behind that, and Chrome has to, or Google has to, maybe it will be best if Google can find a way out of it. That is one. Today it is not, due to multiple technical reasons that I don't intend to go there for now. Mostly, what is the cause of concern with this? So the cause of concern is, so recording the screen becomes easier if it is not the hard, when the topmost level of protection is there. So maybe, for example, if user have a lot of browser preferences, so even if we want to say that, okay, Chrome, Firefox, Apple Safari, and maybe Microsoft Edge. So then if we say that, okay, it is Mac latest version and then Safari, then there is a possibility of getting HD there. But people want to use Safari on the other kind of ecosystem as well, right? Safari can be used maybe on Windows, Linux, or anywhere else. Then giving the right kind of DRM protection is not feasible. Then in all those scenarios where the cross-platform and cross-browser kind of usage is there, then the largest challenge for the content providers and the service provider is how to actually stop this screen recording. So I know that there is a service from PallyCon and maybe other providers also to stop the screen recording on Chrome, but it is just one browser. All other pointers are open. So it will be best if the service providers like PallyCon or many other get together and maybe find a solution to control the screen recording on browser, be it on mobile devices, on Android devices, or computers, or anywhere. That is one. Second, it's an innovative idea that many companies are trying to implement is. So currently, if you see, with one input file, there are multiple renditions created to serve different customers. So one high resolution input file is distributed, let's say 4 or 5 total files. One is full HD, then HD, then some renditions of lower resolutions, 1080p, 720p, 576p, and 360p. At least these 4 are there. So there, in the new innovation, people are saying that, okay, why do you need to encode this much? At least for some of the content, where the quality can be controlled comparatively better. So they will just create one rendition, which is maybe a standard definition rendition, maybe 576p, and they will implement a component in the player software where they can scale up from SD to HD resolution. So that seems fantastic. The challenges happen when there is a limitation from the content provider that, okay, you can't distribute an HD content on a device which is not with the highest level of the DRM protection. So then the content provider can say, okay, I'm not distributing it, but in the player, there's a possibility that they can scale it up. So how to tackle this? So this is an interesting development that's happening, and I think industry should be vigilant about it and should find a solution. So these are the areas which are going to be most interesting in future. And the last but not the least is actually the app security, because there are, of course, when we say DRM, we have implemented DRM, we think, okay, done. It's not. So if the app itself is not secure, not protected, then there are possibilities where people can reverse engineer the app itself. They can find the code pieces where the key generation is happening. They can reverse engineer it. and get to consume your content for free by just making or forcing that app to recognize you as a paid user, even if you didn't pay anything. So they can make a arrangement in code where the code will not even ask the backend whether this is a paid user or free user. They'll simply override it saying that, okay, it is a paid user and now serve me the content. So code obfuscation, application hardening is really,
The need.
very important thing to look forward to. So I would stop here for majority of the cases, because UHD and all and the protection is, I think still there is some time to evolve.
Yeah. So already we have some solutions on the forensic watermarking where is A and B variants are provided. So even if it is recorded, we can identify, but it is taking some time. And there are one more solution called as frame-based watermarking. So wherein even a short clip is enough and which is robust. But to have it for the live content or anything, so there would be some latency and few other things. So that is also a challenge for us to work upon and come up with a solution to protect the content. So actually it's always a challenge, and as the technology evolves, there are a lot of loopholes coming up. So need to keep on patching it up.
As we say, it's a cat and mouse game, and all the best with that game.
Yes. Yeah, that keeps on happening.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Praveen. It was really nice talking to you, and you're glad that you are able to give us your valuable time and give us a lot of insights into how VuClip security posture was increased and how you implemented multi-DRM, the ease of it, and how did it impact your business, basically. All those things. It was really a good, insightful webinar with you, Mr. Praveen Singh. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for inviting me. Have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.